Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the fifth of the Growth Execution podcast episodes in the launch season. I am delighted to be joined by Rajeev Nayyar. Hi there, Rajeev. How you doing?
Oh, I'm well, thanks, Mel. How are you?
Very well indeed, thank you. Very well this Thursday afternoon. So look, as you know, we're really keen to talk to entrepreneurs such as your good self about the kind of process of the launch and how it went and why and what and all that sort of thing, with a view to enabling those that are thinking about making the leap or those that are involved in businesses that are looking to pivot, looking to change, how those kind of launch events happen. So I wonder if I could take you back to the dim and distant past, when you were not Rajeev of Fixflo. What were you doing before this?
So I started off as a lawyer. So I got a law degree at Oxford, worked in the city doing real estate, and I love property, and I'll come back to why I love property in a moment, but that's been it's one of my passions. I then got Rugby World Cup tickets and couldn't get enough time off work, so I called up the law firm that was sponsoring the World Cup in New Zealand. So we're talking 2011, if you remember back that far, and interviewed for a role and moved over there for a couple of years with my partner, who was also a lawyer, and so she got a job at the same firm as well. We watched the World Cup and did some lawyering, and came back and I wanted to start a business in the property sector. I came back and was a consultant for a football club for a bit on a stadium redevelopment, and then went through a process to start a business, which I guess is what we're going to talk about, that sort of granular process in a bit. But so lawyer in the property sector, loving property, wanting to start a business in the sector I love.
Fantastic. And also presumably driven as you seem to be by also other things that are that seem to be relevant, like rugby and travel and all that sort of stuff. I'm guessing the lawyer pursuit and tram lines didn't hold you, right? That wasn't just a linear career that you were interested in.
I was really, really lucky with some of the bosses I had when I was a lawyer, because I think they recognised that I wasn't ever going to be the world's most technically excellent lawyer, but I really enjoyed going out and meeting people, and I enjoyed the subject matter that we were dealing with, which was property. So I really enjoyed business development, building the personal relationships and helping people achieve their goals. And some of the bosses, I'm going to shout them out here, really encouraged me to do that. So Andrew Barrow, who was my first boss as a qualified lawyer, senior partner at Travers Smith, really encouraged me down that path. And then subsequent bosses like James Stiles and Ed Crook in New Zealand sort of recognised that I had a particular skill set, which was going out, meeting people and really trying to understand their business, and sort of encouraged me to deliver on that.
Yeah, brilliant. And when you think back to kind of was there a moment to kind of like that sort of just, you know what, I really need to go, and now's the time to part ways. Now's the time to go down that fork marked Fixflo or a business or entrepreneurship. Was there that moment? And if so, what?
It's always kind of been there. So from being at school, having little side hustles, as I would describe it. So whether it was sort of bulk buying cans of drink and then selling them, so going wholesale to retail at school, through to trying to launch a business that I thought had legs, but I didn't have the technical skills, called Barter Streets, where anybody could barter whatever they wanted. So it was like an online swap shop. I tried to learn computer programming to deliver on it. I failed massively. And its slogan also, in hindsight, wasn't the best. It was called My Donkey for Your Wife, and it was a picture of a donkey. The idea was you could swap anything. It was intended to be banterous. It didn't land that well. So I've always kind of wanted to. And in fact, before I launched Fixflo, my intent was to launch a business for a new form of travel pillow. And this is probably not that relevant to this, but I'll go through that process.
No. All of these launches are important. So go.
So long haul travel was painful, not least when I was living in New Zealand, where everything is pretty much long haul. And I thought there was a better way of doing it. So I worked with a designer, got a manufacturer in China lined up, and I did research. And this is something I'm going to keep coming back to when you're launching a business. So my form of research was to have a clipboard, a sort of lanyard, and I went to airports and I interviewed people coming off planes to assess how they found the flight, what their key challenges were, what kind of travel pillow, if any, they were using, where they saw a gap in the market. And it turns out airports do not like people doing that. That's what I learned. And so I was removed from one terminal at Heathrow. I was removed from Gatwick, and City Airport was genuinely terrifying because they've got people there with guns. I don't know if you've
Yes,
travelled.
dogs, and a lot of them. Yeah.
So I walked in and immediately walked out of there. But I still managed to get some surveys. And I actually went through as part of my lockdown clear up, and I found all my survey responses there as well. So,
wow.
But that market testing piece, I think, is going to come up a few times during today.
And so you were then so your pillow didn't quite take off, or well, perhaps it did in the literal sense. But as far as you were in this particular zone, you were already entrepreneuring as many different ideas as you could, presumably to find the one that was going to be the job, the fix. Is that right?
So I start from the basis that I know nothing, and the truth is all with the customers. And in fact, when I read a book called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and then the Startup Owner's Manual by Steve Blank, which is a sort of extended version of that. Eric was one of his students. It all clicked into place. And so I don't believe that I know anything. And I believe that my customers and prospective customers know everything. And my job is to find out what annoys, troubles them, what their goals and dreams are, and to then come up with a solution. So that's what I did. So whether it was with the travel pillow or with Fixflo, I had a sort of concept of what I thought a pain was. I wanted to validate that lots of other people had challenges in that sort of area, and to understand what their particular challenges were and how we might go about solving them.
Fantastic. So this is aiming towards the product market fit. I know this is obviously something that Reese talks about a lot in the Lean Startup, and Blank as well. Actually iterating your product through to product market fit via testing. All right,
and beyond product market fit, I think, the lifeblood of a company that's driven by customer satisfaction is to continually ask their customers what it is they want to achieve, whether it is what do you do before or after using our product, or what is it through this journey that's not working for you or could be enhanced, what do you want? And we spend a lot of time doing that. So we run on an agile methodology, which is a fancy way of saying we iterate a lot. And so every 2 weeks there's a new version of Fixflo that's put out, and we procure feedback from our customers, and customers include tenants, landlords, contractors, everybody involved in our communication platform to drive product enhancement.
And we're going to just put in a little bit here about Fixflo, what you're doing now, before we go back to that, because that's really fascinating about how to get that product right. So Fixflo, this was the big one. You've done your research, you found out there's a problem here, and it seems to be for multiple people. What's the problem, and how are you fixing it?
Okay, so again, if I take you back to New Zealand, I'm going to keep going back there. So it's my happy place. I was renting in New Zealand. We were renting in New Zealand, and we rented a property that kept leaking, and our clothes went mouldy, and had dehumidifiers running, and all that. I mean, in hindsight, a blessing, because at the same time we were renting out properties in London, and I got to see the pain of the repairs process for everybody involved in rental properties from the perspective of a landlord and as a tenant at the same time. And so recognizing that there was a problem, not quite knowing what exactly the problem was nor how to fix it, I then came back, and in parallel with the research for the Schnoozy, which was the name of the travel pillow, I was Schnoozy trademark, completely useless trademark.
One day somebody's going to come along and
.com. I then surveyed tenants, went door to door around letting agents, and I used a technique which may seem slightly disingenuous, was basically, if you go in and say, I've got this great idea, I want you to validate me as a human being, everyone's going to be quite nice. So I found that you need to give people permission to be blunt and rude. And so I used a technique which was basically, my friend's got this business, I think it's rubbish. Before I turn him down, I'd love for you to tell me why it won't work. Because finding out from, and I'm going to go to someone who I really admire, John Paul at the Castledean Group. So it's people who don't like what you're doing or provide negative feedback who are significantly more valuable than people telling you you're great and wonderful. And so I wanted all of the reasons why Fixflo would fail before we even started building. Before we did a line of code, we wanted to know all the reasons why it wouldn't work so that we could address them as we built the solution.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I think that's a really, really important thing for any entrepreneur out there is you've got to not just go into the conversations with the people who you know are going to be lovely to you, or are going to just almost just kind of brush it off and go, yeah, go for it. It's actually being able to present it as something that that you want them to kick the heck out of.
You've got to give them explicit permission to tell you it's crap.
Yeah.
Sorry, am I allowed to swear on this? I'm not sure.
And
if you're interested in a book that sort of helps, I read avidly, and so we talked about the Lean Startup. The other one is the MOM test, MOM, which the MOM test, like American for mum, which basically helps you to explain your context. Some people really struggle, I think, to explain very simply what their product is or their desire is and why people would be interested, and also gives you a framework to get it kicked to pieces. So if you're interested in reading about that, then go for it.
Brilliant. Okay. And so then you find, or you will go to where those people hang out. Obviously you went door to door around lettings agents who are relatively straightforward to find. For those looking in a pandemic to find that, then it's job boards, right? Sorry, it's forums, it's places where the groups hang out and they kind of chat with each other.
That would be one way. Depending on the segment you're after, you may use something like Google Surveys or YouGov if you're looking at a more consumer-based approach. There are surveying and research organisations that can do it, but I don't think, and I appreciate that at the moment it's a different environment. I think you learn quite a lot by staring someone in the face and getting the honest response. So even if you're going to supplement it with research, online research or outsourced research, I'd strongly encourage people to get in the face of prospective consumers or users of their products and give them the permission to tell you you're rubbish and find out why.
I have often found that can be quite, various clients I've worked with, particularly the startup phase, that can be quite emotional for them. How do you deal with that? Somebody telling you that your baby is ugly?
Someone has actually said that about my baby. It was my grandmother. What is that? Okay, so I keep coming back to that I know nothing. And so it's something that I think is an incredibly powerful tool. And removing ego from the context. So it's something called the beginner's mindset, and giving yourself permission to be a beginner at each stage is hugely powerful, because as a beginner, you're on a quest for knowledge and insight. And I'd much rather be told at an early stage that something's rubbish and isn't going to work, rather than investing years of blood, sweat and tears in it to find out it's rubbish. And actually by being told it's rubbish at the start and possibly how you might make it better, you've got you're materially increasing your chances of success. So I cling to the beginner's mindset as much as I can, and I go into everything with I'm a complete novice and I want to learn.
Brilliant. And just before we do get into the nuts and bolts of Fixflo and how that's been successful, the Schnoozy, there must have been a real moment in time where you had to part ways with that idea. What turned it off for you in the end?
It was the traction that Fixflo was getting. So what a guy I know says, you sometimes have to kill your darlings, which is a horrific way of describing it, but that sort of relentless focus on one thing, I think it's really, really hard to be great at one thing. I think it's nigh on impossible, or at least impossible for someone like me, to be great at multiple things. There are entrepreneurs out there who have absolutely nailed multiple businesses in parallel. I mean, you look at Elon Musk. I'm not an Elon Musk. I never, not even close. But everybody, I think, will massively increase their chances of success if they have a relentless focus on solving one thing. And so that's it. And we still go through that with Fixflo. So we sunset features to allow us to focus more intently on those things that are driving value to our customers.
Mm-hmm. And if you would, so then flipping to Fixflo. So if you were to look at Fixflo now, and then again, you're going to tweak it again in 2 weeks and 2 weeks and 2 weeks, how radically different is it from V1 or V0.0.0.1?
So really, really good book that I read was Alistair Campbell's Winners, which I'm going to do a horrific job of summarizing as: you have an objective, which is where you're going, your sort of destination. You have strategies by which you're going to get there, and then you've got the individual tactics. Our objective has always been the same, which is to take the pain out of repairs and maintenance in properties. So that we have not moved one dot from where we're going. Our strategies to implement them have changed a little over time, and our tactics change pretty rapidly and regularly. Partly because the company itself has changed. So when there are 2 people in a basement or 40 to 50 people in an office, you need different sets of tactics. But the overall objective of the business and our purpose, our mission, has always stayed the same. So objectives, strategy, tactic, where you're going, how you might want to get there, what sort of vehicles you might take, and then the tactics are the specific turnings you'll take on that journey. Our objective hasn't changed. Strategies evolve over time, and tactics iterate, and you've got to be calm and agile about changing them. But we have not changed where we're going.
Brilliant. And we spend a lot of time, and I know we've had these conversations before, on product concepts. So what you are here to do, the thing that you are here to fix, this problem you are solving, has to be at the heart of everything, right? And yes, how you do that can change, but almost the why you're here, and let's swap books. Start with Why by Simon Sinek, absolute amazing book, and I know you've read it. It's that to me is the absolute epitome of what you're talking about. You start with why you're doing it, and everything else flows off that.
Absolutely, and I think the term pivot has been misused. So to me, a pivot might be a change in strategy, but not a change in where you're going. So if a business went from say wallpapers to house building, that is not a pivot. That is a fundamentally different business. And so permission to pivot is something that people talk about quite a lot, but I think it's misused and misunderstood. If you're not going to the same place, it's a different business, and you need to rethink it from the ground up. You probably need to get a new business model canvas out and rethink the principle from first principles up.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you're right. It is thrown around quite a lot as, when actually you're not pivoting, you are just changing the whole business that you're in. But yes, within the business and the brand and so on that you're doing right now, you can pivot as long as the concept is the same. When you're thinking about the kind of the launch of Fixflo, so let's go back to that. And you were solving the problem of maintenance and had to make that as pain-free as possible. What did you find was the biggest challenge when you were launching?
Credibility is how I would summarize it. So without real world examples of the benefits the solution could bring, it was hard. And the particular difficulty that we faced, and it applies in a sort of any multi-sided business, was say property managers could see the benefits to tenants. Tenants could see the benefits to property managers. Contractors could see the benefits. Everyone could see the benefits from the other person's perspective. And trying to solidify it from each person's perspective requires real life use cases. I was really lucky in that some of the people I first went and interviewed when I was wearing out shoe leather actually came on board as early adopters. So I went to them on a regular basis and said, you told me this was crap. This is what we've done. So I started with an idea, then PowerPoint, then interactive wireframes. So all non-technical stuff that can be built, and none of it was required a line of coding. And eventually they said, you know what, if you build this, we will run with it. And so that helped to sort of bridge that credibility gap, which I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, but almost the process that you went through in order to do that market research gave you that in as well, right? I'm not suggesting it was directly a sales function, but certainly it kind of laid the groundwork for that initial
sale. The sale was the byproduct of working with them to solve their problem. And I was hugely lucky, and I'm still really grateful for the people who gave their time. And some of them are people in sort of similar shoes to you who've been there and done it before, whether inside or outside of my sector. Other people were operators and prospective customers, but I found that sort of that being honest, I'm trying to solve something, I probably got it wrong. Would you be happy to give me a little bit of time to help? I found that people were really, really generous with their time by and large.
Yeah, I'm always, whenever I hear the word lucky, I always just assume that you make your own luck. What's the phrase? It's the meeting of preparation and opportunity. That's what luck is. So the preparation was obviously something that was underway. And then, when you spoke to you got the right person in, and this is what happens. Thinking about launch as well, where did the name come from?
Fixflo. So I mean, honestly, I'm not sure it's the greatest name. I've had so many customers tell me that it is not the right name. In fact, some of them have come up with significantly better names subsequently. But we wanted something that was simple, that described what we did, which was a fixing workflow, in effect.
Yes.
There were lots of different permutations of that. Then you go through the practical considerations. Can you get the .co.uk.com? Is the trademark available? And you end up with a very short list. Although one of our clients has got a much better name for it and actually markets it as such, which is slightly annoying. So because our system's white label, they've got a much better name for our business. I might have to approach him and see whether he fancies transferring that over.
That's hilarious. I remember when I was working for, so this financial services was my game before Prime Location Super. And we were the card protection plan was a really boring functional name. And I think HSBC called it Card Guard. And I was always just like, that's just so much better. Why don't we call it Card Guard? Amazing. Yes. So you'll have to tell us in due course what that name is. But yeah, it's so Fixflo, Fixflo, has just become a kind of byword for genuinely for an amazing way of reporting in any language anything that's wrong in your property, right? If you're a tenant, you just pick a few
another book recommendations about to come. So the Arnold Schwarzenegger autobiography. Hugely interesting guy, really phenomenally smart. But one of the key things that stuck with me from that is differentiate yourself. So there's no point in being in a crowded market. So find the thing that you can be the best in the world at and absolutely own that category. So that's what we sought to do. So to differentiate and category create, and then to become synonymous with the category which we were serving.
Mm-hmm. And you, when you articulate that to your team or to people you hire or to shareholders or to customers, how do you describe it?
In terms of our purpose or what we do?
So your niche.
We are the way that repairs and maintenance are solved. If you want to deal with repairs and maintenance, you Fixflo it. And we've got over 1 million homes in the UK using the platform. We can give you stats out the ears, but really, I don't think that's the right way to approach the market. I think the best thing to do is have a chat with someone and see what their challenges are. There are people out there who have no challenges, and they may be using an abacus and a piece of paper. And quite frankly, that's okay. There are multiple ways to solve problems. But if they have a problem that we can solve that is of value to them, then we should have a chat about how we can do that. But quite a lot of our conversations around their business challenges or goals. So a software solution is a means to achieve a goal rather than a goal in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people that I speak with, particularly the startup phase, when we're trying to work out what this niche is going to be, what this place that they're going to own, so for example, us here at Growtion, it's about growth execution. It's about actually doing the executing on growth rather than just the whole strategic stuff. Like you say, for you, it's about this kind of making sure that you own the whole repair side of things and reporting on that. So yeah, anybody listening, you've really got to spend time sitting there and thinking about what you can carve out, because we could be a consultancy business, but there are loads of them, but nobody's nailing this whole growth execution bit. Nobody's nailing your stuff as well. And
execution. So the difference between, bluntly, I think the difference between a business that works and a business that doesn't is execution. So ideas are cheap and commoditized and largely easy to come up with. It's not the I have an idea bit that's the tricky bit. It's the execution piece, the relentless focus on execution. And that's where I see a real gap with people I speak with, and some of whom I mentor, is the gap between I have a great idea and how do I make that dream a reality. And that to me, that chasm is the success. That's where success comes from. And that is all about execution, process and execution.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is why we are called Growtion, is because the execution piece is the bit that makes the difference. It is not just the ideas. And I think that's true as well, just as a kind of an aside in terms of, life in general as well. You mentioned mentoring, from a personal perspective and from, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? How do I want to get there? All that sort of stuff. You've got to take those steps all the way through consistently. Otherwise, that's not going to happen either. So yeah, I think it's hugely important and something that we spend a lot of time on, obviously, within this business too. Right, I'm very mindful of time running away with us, so I'm going to ask you some kind of very specific quick-fire questions. What's the thing that most surprised you about launching a business?
That it was possible.
Okay.
So each part of launching a business can be broken into its component parts. I think there's a horrible, perhaps slightly impenetrable language around the starting of a business, but actually the things are relatively straightforward. So if you're out there and you're sort of thinking about launching a business, go and speak to someone like Mal, and they'll be able to talk you through these are the terms that are used: growth hacking, product market fit, all of the stuff. But turning it into what that actually means is finding something that people want, solving a problem. So that's part of it. Growth hacking, finding ways to reach customers in an effective way without spending lots of money. So if you break the component parts down into simple language, it becomes much more accessible. And there is a tried and tested formula to doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one that we've tried to reflect, obviously, as part in behind here. What do you wish you knew back then?
Can't think of it. I quite like the naivety. So I think if you know all the challenges ahead, it takes away part of the fun. It's like knowing the end of a film. And also going in with that sort of pre-knowledge probably stops the learning process, which for me is the most enjoyable piece. So every day is a school day. I get to learn stuff every day. So I don't think I would change it. So one of my mentors said, every time you overcome something, relish it. Everything that's hard, relish it when you overcome it, because it's a barrier for anybody else, and it helps you get better for overcoming it. So nothing.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And again, book swap, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It is an amazing book about when you see two paths and one's like really easy and one's like really hard, go for the hard stuff, because that's where A, other people won't, so you're winning, and B, the stuff you learn from that just keeps on giving back. So yeah, couldn't agree more. I think it's the journey is just as exciting and just as fun as what you get out of it in the end, right?
If you're not up for the journey and you don't enjoy the journey, then probably starting a business isn't for you. The journey is most of it, and sort of problem solving is most of the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, the one I just said. So don't fear challenges or obstacles or hard things. Learn to embrace them, because they stretch you and your abilities, and they're barriers to other people looking to eat your lunch.
Brilliant. What or who, if there is one, would you say is an inspiration for you? Is there anybody you kind of look up to?
In our sector, Alex Chesterman, who you worked with, I came in contact with a few times, but just phenomenally bright, phenomenally quick, and just built the most amazing businesses time after time. Just if I had an entrepreneur crush, that would be him.
You're talking Alex, right?
Yeah.
Alex Chesterman, yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Kind of, if you have posters up on your wall, you'd be up there with him in his Zoopla career, and when he did Love Film, and now he's doing
Kazoo. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, real inspiration, and an amazing guy to have worked with. Very, very fortunate. Fantastic. Listen, thank you so much for your time on this, and I really appreciate the insights you've shared about your amazing business. Do you have a view of what's coming down the track? Have you got any ideas of what the next big thing is? If you were starting out right now, would you look at anything in particular?
If I was starting out now, I'd be looking at the question I get asked the most is how do I come up with a thing? And I keep coming back to the thing's probably not in your head. So I would, as a process, think what really annoys me about my current life, or way of working, or whatever it is, Or what do I want to achieve that proves difficult? So say opening a bank account, and Monzo just nailed that. Go out and find if it annoys or is an aspiration of lots and lots of people. And then if it is, find out how you can work with them to solve it.
Yeah, brilliant. Couldn't agree more. I think that's excellent advice. So final question, what are you doing next? What's for you kind of in the next week or so? How are you further iterating?
So today we launched some more contractor networks within our platform. So if we talk about the last month, we have launched an AI-powered inbox for contractors to just email invoices in, where we pull out the data. So we found out that data entry is not one of people generally's favorite things. So we found a way of solving that. Yep. So if someone is using a Xero or a Sage, they can just simply set up an email into our system. We pull out the data for them so they don't have to type anything. And then today we launched 2 national contractor networks. So our clients told us, again, going out to clients, that they had a problem securing electricians on short notice for new statutory checks on properties. So we've got 2 national networks that launched today, available in our platform with an SLA and a guarantee and a rate card, so that if our clients are struggling to find electricians, they can automate the instructions or find them within our platform.
Wow. Amazing. And that continuous improvement is what's made your business so amazing, and congratulations on it once more. Thank you for sharing those insights with us. If anybody needs to come and have a look around your business, Fixflo, fixflo.com.
And connect with me on LinkedIn if you're interested.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Rajeev, been great to catch up, mate. Really appreciate it. We will catch up again soon, I'm sure. All the very best.
Thanks, Mel. Cheers.